experience, right? You've used a lot of product, but then there's one particular product that just feels like, oh my god, how sweet is this? The whole thing you just experienced, the emotional feeling you just experienced, is user experience. It's just the UX. It's all we call UX, nothing else. It's just inside the word UX, and UX is user experience, right? And if you have also ever used a product that is so terrible, you can't find the next button, you can't find where to click, you can't, the colors are fighting with each other, it's also UX. But then on the other side of the bridge, which is bad UX, right? So like I said, I mean, I've spoken about this. We're just going to look at what is UX, the impact of it on product, why it matters, how does it connect to business? Because as a product manager, the bottom line of the business is very important to you, right? And then look at user journey map and the key touch point at every point that users interact with your product, before they interact, at the point of interaction, and after interaction. How does UX come into play? So, I mean, Palabanja has done a good justice about my profile. Very simply, I work at Kuda today. Before then, I worked at Polaris Bank, worked on lending, onboarding, did a major shift in onboarding at Polaris Bank, and designed a couple of more products, payments, and all of that. At Truck, I was building a SaaS, an inventory management system and logistic management solution for FMCGs and delivery companies. A power plug is a simple platform for you to buy electricity, right? So a couple of other stuff. Before then, I was an entrepreneur for 4 years, and before that, I was a software engineer. So simply as that. So what is UX? I mean, from the first set of sentences I made into this presentation, you basically should be able to say this is what UX is in your own words. And but this is English language. But the most important thing is that you understand what UX is. So let's just read what English language says, or grammar, or the experts are saying. They said UX refers to the overall experience that a user has while interacting with a product, service, or system, encompassing usability, accessibility, and satisfaction. I usually, when I talk about UX, I had my own, because it needs to include beauty too. The UX needs to be fine. It needs to be aesthetically pleasing. An app can be usable and not beautiful. An app can be beautiful and not usable. I say that a lot of time. But with UX, a good UX must have all of it. So what is UX basically? It's all of the experience of the user while interacting with your product. What are you building? What service are you building? What systems are you building? Your user, who is your user? How do they feel when interacting with your product? Either at the start of it, or within the engagement, or after the use of the product, right? So what's that connection they have to your product? How do they feel? What do they say about it? Are they able to find their way around? Do you communicate enough with them? That's all UX. All UX. The whole experience that the user have. That's all UX. So why does these things matter? I mean, you could basically build a product that allow people to pay electricity bills, right? And the user can open the app, can put in their meter number, put in their amount, pay, and then they get the token, the electricity token. They put it on their meter, and then it gets restarted, and their life continues. That's the solution, right? But does that gives the best experience? Just simply by doing that, does that gives the whole amazing experience that a user is expecting from your platform, right? So why does an amazing user experience matter? Why does an
Oh,
amazing user experience matter?
I'm actually see that in there. Yes.
Olabanji, we can hear you.
Mm.
Are you talking to us? Okay, so I guess so. Why does good UX matter? The statistics says
Yeah.
that 37% of businesses that prioritize UX, sees a revenue increase of up to 37%. how does this 37% happen? Do their revenues just increase compared to their their competitors? Why do they do better? And this is stated in four things here. One, user satisfaction, engagement, loyalty, referral, and promotion. So for user satisfaction, like I'm using the example of Duolingo I mentioned the other time. Everybody remember one specific amazing app that they use. And it's so interesting that you go on Google Play Store or App Store and go and put a review or just put a rating of how good or how bad it is. I usually don't write reviews online. I know a lot of people do write reviews. I'm just from my own personal experience. I don't write a lot of reviews. But if an app makes me go to Apple Store or Google Play Store and write a review, it's either it is terribly bad or it is so good, right? So let's just leave the app now and go to traditional business. I mean, I'm very new to Lagos. I mean, less than 2 years in Lagos, and when I rarely go out, and when I want to go out, I go to Google and type restaurants in Ikeja, amazing restaurants in VI, or on the days that I don't have money, cheap restaurants in Lekki, affordable restaurants, so place. Why am I doing that? Not just because I'm looking for a restaurant. Yes, I am looking for a restaurant, but it's beyond just looking for a restaurant. I want to also read the reviews of people. I want to see the rating. I want somebody who has been there to say, oh, when I got there, the service was amazing. The waiters and waitresses were nice, cordial. And I also want to see the person who is going to come there and say, their VAT is too much. I've seen a lot of that review online. I mean, the VAT is like 50%, or it's different from this. Or some people take VAT and also still take consumption tax. And some people say, oh, it's added to the product. So, I mean, those are their reviews. And then it shows, and that user satisfaction is giving them one more thing, one more customer. So it's either it's giving them more referrals or doing a negative thing for the business. So for businesses who have prioritized UX in tech, people read the reviews also, and then people show that they are satisfied. And that then in turns gives them referrals and promotion. Also, if a user is satisfied, it's going to continue to engage the app. If I use a app and I'm going to keep using Duolingo. So when I started using Duolingo, I like the app because it's just interesting. The UI is amazing, and yes, the UX is also fantastic for me. And because I'm satisfied with the language I'm learning, I then had to explore other things. Because I'm satisfied, I had to pay premium, yearly subscription. If I'm not satisfied, I probably would not make that payment. And after making the payment, because the work of a program manager is that tedious or very, very engaging, I don't stay up to time. Like I don't do it every day, but I've made the payment, right? And then loyalty, UX also allows user to be loyal to you because regardless of what solution you are building, I'm not saying product now, regardless of the solution you are building to solve a customer's problem, somebody out there is also building a solution for that particular customer. So it means that you always have competitors, and that competitor would also solve the user problem. It might not be as fast as yours, it might not be as easy as yours, it might not be as cheap as yours, but then they solve the problem. Solving this problem, what then makes a user loyal to you? Why should I use a CUDA app? Why should I use a GTP app? Why should I use an Access app when I could move my money from one bank to another bank and then do most of my transactions from there, right? So better UX also helps build loyalty. And I've talked about referral and promotion, right? So this is the journey of a user, basically. When a user wants to decide to use a product or not. From this user journey, you would see basically it's just a scenario-based experience sequence, a step-by-step process of how a user from awareness to then discovering your product And then what happens after? Either they trust you, or just throw away your product or your solution, right? So a user, I know a lot of people confuse these two, user flow, and I think product managers should not even confuse a user journey and a user flow, basically. So please, let's be sure that we know the difference and also treat it as that. So let's just use this as an example. I got this from Neyman online while I was preparing for this slide. Um, Nursing is new to town and wants to find a medical practice to use long term. From this diagram, we simply can see that Nelson goes through 4 phases of finding a doctor, right? The first phase he goes through is examine. The next one is elect. The next one is evaluate, and then entrust. At each of these steps, the user has his goals. Each of these steps, the user also have the pain point, and then there are opportunities for your product to get into the mind of the user at each of those steps. Let's just use this as a typical example. So at the examine step, it says that the user research nursing is researching relevant practices and practitioners. You can find reviews online, right? It means that some people have used some services and drop reviews online, comments online about a particular doctor or a particular hospital, if they attend to customers fine, right? Or if the amount for their card is too expensive, or they whenever you go there, doctors are not on seats. They tell you that doctors, you have to come back in 30 minutes or come back in 24 hours to see a doctor, right? So one of the criteria is looking out for is looking for a place that is close to him, right? So and their pain point at that stage, the pain point at that stage is if he cannot find reviews, it's a problem, right? If it's difficult to see practice location, if you cannot find if the place is close to him, you can't see the distance, right? When you Google a location, you can see how far the place is to you. You can even see the direction on Google Map and see the path to the place. So if he cannot find a doctor's place online, it then becomes a problem. Also, if there is overwhelming number of practices, like there's a long list and he does not know what to pick from, nothing they fast them. So when you are thinking of your product, if you want UX to matter to you, or if you want to be a part of those businesses who have seen a 35% increase in revenue, you need to then take a step back and start thinking of your product from this step, not just from the moment that they come in contact with your app. So UX starts from here. When the user is doing research, user should be able to find you easily, should be able to see the words about you, reviews about you, something about you. I want to be able to Google your product and see a blog page that explains how you are going to solve my problem. The next, in between that, the user has the first contact with the prospective business, right? Or the prospective practice. He schedules an appointment. He says here that I hope the lack of communication isn't a red flag. It means that if he's not able to reach them, if your business is available online, but he cannot reach you, someone is trying to find your app, he has Googled, saw a blog post about you that talks about what your product can do, but the link on the blog post that redirects to the app store or to your website is broken. The bad US has started from that point. So you say, in order we can solve your problem, or for you to get started, click here. And I click here. Click here is not responding, or click here is taking me to another place, right? The bad UX starts from there. The next phase is elect. So if he finally is able to pick a solution or a product or a business, he wants to book an appointment and he wants to be able to go there. So you can see on this user journey, he says he receives a reminder that tells him that your appointment is 8 a.m. in the morning. So that reminds him. Notification. That's where notification comes in. So I know a lot of app that does when you download the app, but you have not registered. A push notification comes to you after 24 hours and says you download, but you have not registered. Not in those exact words. I mean, you have to coin the words right. So that reminds the user that we can still solve your problem and we're hiding somewhere inside your phone. And you try us out now today. Or you register, but you have not moved money into the app. And I'm telling you, okay, on your first transaction, you get free transfer. That's also reminding you that I can solve your problem. Inside somewhere you have, you're in your phone. You have not used me. My app is crying. Come and use me. Come and use me. Part of the UX, right? And then evaluate after using the product or first interaction with the product. He finally sees the doctor. He wants to be able to say that, oh, I've used the doctor, the experience was good, and then he moves to entrust. It means that if he enjoys the service, he then see a follow-up via phone, and then he can tell people and say, oh, I enjoyed the service of that doctor. You can then refer that doctor. Or also, he then goes online and also writes a review, put a rating, exactly with your app. So someone needs to discover you. Your user has to discover you. What's their experience at the phase of discovery? What's their experience at the phase of deciding to use you? What's their experience when they are using you? What's their experience after using you? I hope that speaks to someone. And from now, you can take a step back and look at the products you're building. If your UX or your thought of UX is starting from the phase of awareness. If it's not, I hope you do something about it starting from today. So, UX research. The first text I wrote here says is not mind reading, is UX research. This I see this amidst a lot of product managers. Um, a lot of people think a lot of people think research is a buzzword. Like everybody just throws it around and then it does nothing. But a true product manager knows that research is the heart and soul of whatsoever you're building. It defines, it plays a big role. Let me use that word. It plays a big role in the success or failure of your product. Or let me say it plays a big role in defining if what you are building is for the user or not. A lot of people just assume, a lot of product managers at the early stage mostly assume that they know what the user wants. In product management, in UX, there's no assumption. You need to go talk to somebody, ask questions, figure out a way to understand, to know the mind of the user. You are not reading their mind. You need to talk to them to be able to understand. You need to ask questions or observe whatever they are doing. Their product usage behavior, all of that, or even how they are using competitors' products to understand the best experience for them. So here, I just put out three things that could inform your user experience. First, interviews. Talk to user. Talk to user. There are rules of. I mean, we are product managers. Interviews have rules, right? You don't ask closed-end questions. You don't ask questions that gives you yes or no. That the user would give you a yes or no answer. There are a lot of rules. I mean, we need to start talking to users more. If you talk to 10 users per week, increase it every week by adding one more user. If you have the power to add two more users every week add two. Next week you'll be talking to 12 users per week. The next one you'll be talking to 14 users per week. You can increase it, and if it's every month, you want to add five new users to talk to every month. That's an amazing idea too. You need to continue to talk to users. Also, surveys are very important for users. For there are some users you might not be able to reach. General surveys would also be good for you to understand what the needs of the user is very important. As a product manager, you are an advocate for the user. Also, analytics. Analytics is very, very, very important. I can't overstress it. I'm seeing a trend. I might be wrong. This is my personal opinion about this. I'm seeing a trend of a lot of products are being built outside data. A lot. As much as the word data is flying everywhere, there's still a lot of products who do not track product usage, who do not know how many users, who do not track the events on their app. They don't know how many users click on the sign up, and they don't know how many users completed the sign up, got to the last phase of sign up. They only know how many users have signed up today. They don't even know if 100 people started the sign up process and only 30 people finished. But they just saw that 30 people have signed up on our app today. They're happy. Oh, our users have increased. The remaining 70, what's their experience? Do we need to optimize something? Or did they forget? Are they supposed to upload a document and they are not at home where the document is available? Can we move that position? That position where everybody is dropping off because of the document. Can we move it to later? Can they skip it and do it later? When we say they should do it later, can we add a notification that reminds them that you need to do it now? So those are the things we need to start. We need to start looking at our data analytics, look at product usage, user behavior, and all of that. So if if you then pay attention to research, design thinking is also very important. To design thinking is also a very important part of UX. Very, very important. This is the stage where you find out what the problem is, you find out who the user is, find out what their problem is, brainstorm on ideas, give them a minimum viable product or a sample or a model of whatever you want to build, and then test, right? And this is very important because it helps you to get the best of whatever you're building. Very, very important. So at the stage of empathizing with the user, as a product manager, you're putting yourself in the shoe of the user. You're not just assuming that this is what they are going through. You're putting yourself in the shoe of the user. Step into the user's shoe. What are their pains? What are their gains? What's their favorite dance move? Where did they go? Where did they worship on Sunday? What transportation what transportation method do they use? Do they use public transport? You need to put yourself in that position so that you can see their problem the way they see it, right? So the next stage is defining. The problem you are solving is the key to everything. Without solving a problem, your product is not useful to anybody. So you need to solve a problem. So define the problem clearly, state it, let it be very clear. It's like finding the right key to unlock a world of solutions. So without problem, there's no solution, or the solution you're building is not useful to anybody. So the better you define the problem, the smoother the journey will be. The next stage is then ideate. Let creativity flow at this point. Let creativity just keep flowing. Brainstorm. No idea is crazy. No idea in design thinking, no idea is crazy. Everybody needs to come to the table and say, your engineers, your designers, your product managers, the QAs, everybody needs to contribute at this point. Everybody, all stakeholders need to contribute at this time, even the product marketers. So don't hold back anybody. Don't hold back at all. So prototyping is basically to help you learn. Prototyping is like sketching the dream, like build a rough version of whatever you're building, a very, very rough version that solves the problem of the user, and then help them get to their goal, right? So when you're doing this, you are you're learning from the user, you're learning their behavior. So you're building you want to revamp your onboarding process. You build a prototype, and then it bring in two or three. It then takes us to the next phase, which is text, right? So you build two or three, you bring in two or three of your users, or even 10 if you can afford, or 20 if you can afford. Tell them to use the prototype. let them give it a try. Just study. Don't tell them what to do. Just put it in front of them. I mean, when they download the app in their houses and they are using it, you are not there. So now that they're in front of you, you don't need to tell them what to do. You just need to sit and look at what they are doing and observe and see if what you expect them to do on the app is what they are doing, right? So testing is not about avoiding failure. When you release your product, when you release your product in bit and give it to a section of your users and say let them use it, there's a common beta testing right now that everybody now does. In like 3 4 5 years ago, a lot of people just gives users aha moments when they launch products, nobody testing it. So testing is becoming a huge thing now. So not just big company does beta testing anymore. Every startups now do beta testing, which I expect that everybody does, right? And as a product manager, you should also champion it that we can continuously test with a small percentage of users who are really facing the problems you are trying to solve. Let them test it. So testing is not about avoiding failure, really. It's about embracing it early. Test, fail fast, learn fast, and succeed sooner. Because if you release a product and everybody uses it, you have 1,000 users, you release a product, 700 people do not like it, they drop off, you have 300, right? But if you want to test, you release to 100 people. They know that is testing, that is a better test, right? And they test it. If 70 people do not like it, it's better than 700, right? And then you can do that continuously. So, common pitfalls that we face as product managers when it comes to UX. And I mean, I've mentioned some while we're doing this, and I think these are also very, very important. This puts it together. Very, very important. A common thing I've seen when talking to product managers, or when talking to product managers and when doing product teardowns, are that product managers should stop assuming that everybody thinks like them. Like, you need to stop assuming that you know everything. You need to stop assuming that you expect that the user is going to click a button, or you expect that a user wants this button to be at the top, or a user wants it to be at the bottom. Stop assuming that everybody is thinking like you. So there was a time where when you are building a product, of when Tinder came out, when it created a trend of swiping right, swiping left. A lot of us know Tinder, right? And it created a trend of swiping right, swiping left. So when Tinder came out and it went viral and the product was a success, it created a trend of, or an assumption that when you are building anything matchmaking online, it might not be dates, it might be mentor or mentee matchmaking, it might be anything matchmaking or shopping. In fact, some e-commerce use the trend because Tinder was going viral and also applied it, right? That when the user is supposed to select an option from a long list of options, you can allow them to just swipe right, swipe left, swipe right, swipe left. It's becoming a thing, and everybody will assume that. Some product managers assume that, oh, it's going to be interesting for everybody to just swipe right, swipe left, right? So which was a bad thing. And so we need to stop assuming that everybody thinks like us. Secondly, neglecting accessibility and inclusivity is a big risk, right? It's like putting one in deep shit early, like putting oneself in deep shit early. I mean, ignoring accessibility is like having, it's like being in a house that have different rooms, and there are people in those rooms. In the sitting room, you have 10 people. In the bedroom, you have 10 people. In the dining, you have 5 people. And then you enter the house and just go and switch off the light for people in the bedroom, right? The whole house is your house, like, and you're entertaining guests, and then you went to switch off lights for some set of people. So you need to be able to pay attention to accessibility and inclusivity. Make sure that everybody can enjoy the feast, not some set of users like it and some people don't like it. So regardless of people's preference, your app needs to be acceptable, or else those guys who do not like it are going to run to your competitor. So another assumption and another pitfall is feature overload. Oh my god, this is very common, especially at a small startup. Everybody wants to build, 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 build new feature, build new feature. And most times, over the years, I noticed that that thing is never true. Never true. That the more features you have, the more successful your product is going to become. It has never been true. That feature returns. Thank you for your comment, Matthew. I mean, it has never been correct. You want to be, if you have a roadmap, I know some of us are already preparing 2024 roadmap. If you have a roadmap that has lots of features, you need to resume on Monday and go and work on that roadmap. Go and trash it out. There's no reason for a lot of. The first thing is maintaining status quo. It means that what is already there and your analytics show that it's working, it must continue to work. Those things must not fail. That's like the first thing. That's your first job as a product manager. The things that are working must work. It must not fail. Because regardless of the new feature, if what is working fails, which is the core engine, it's because they are using what is working. That's why you can cross-sell or upsell new features to them. So if that particular thing, which is the center of attraction, is not working, whatever you are cross-selling or you are upselling, it's not going to sell too, regardless of how good it is. So too many features, it's a pitfall. Prioritize only what gives user value. Stop saying our company. I used to work somewhere, I'm not going to mention the name, where stakeholders just come in and says, our competitor just released something last week. Start building it. Oh my God, we fight every time. And I don't listen that much, right? I don't listen that much. But then it got to a time where I used to just say, okay, no problem. We'll look at it. But we're not looking at anything. I'm not looking at anything. I'm not. Because regardless of what everybody comes to tell you as a product manager and says, somebody's building this, look at it, build it. They come next week and say, one of our competitors is building this, build it. You're going to shatter your user experience. You're going to destroy it. And when you destroy it, when the time for appraisal comes, nobody's going to remind that they told you to build 100 million features. What they would use to appraise you is how many new users do we have? How many did we retain? How much money did we make? And feature overload is not going to bring that for you. So it takes off UX. So final words. Channel your inner UX superhero. You are not just a product manager. You are a UX advocate. You are the voice of the user, and their experience should be priority to you. I hope that with these few points of mine, you will take UX seriously and you will look to optimize it and get the best of your users. Thank you. God bless. Any question at this point? Any question? Chine, please go ahead.
Oh no, I didn't raise
Thank
up
you
my hand.
so much. Yeah, thank you so much, Olawale. Thank you so much. This has been a pretty insightful section from introducing us to UX and talking about customer journey map, user journey map, all the way down to understanding user experience, differentiating, identifying that user journey map is different from user flow, which I know is something that people always confuse with user journey map, because user journey map is different from a user flow. And I like that you also explained that and some of the interesting examples that you shared. Thank you so, so much for sharing this. So the floor is now open for questions. If you have questions, please raise up your hand to ask your questions. Olawale has done an amazing job breaking down these ideas. And I'm pretty much sure that one or more of us will have one or more questions to ask, to further buttress some of the points that he shared. I remember he saying that, you don't just go about improving, you don't just go about doing what everybody is doing. When he gave the example of Tinder and swiping, and everybody was copying the old swipe functionality, right? I think that was a very insightful thought on the context of implementing user experience. Okay, we have Olarinwaju. Okay, Olarinwaju, thank you so much. Please go ahead with your question.
Thank you, Mr. Labanji. So, well done, Mr. Lawale, for the presentation. My question is just as a product manager, is it good for us to take a look at our competitor? In the course of your presentation, it's like you mentioned of something about our competitors. So when is it very good for us to take a look at what our competitors are doing?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question. Thank you. I really, really thank you for that question because so that I can thank you for giving me the opportunity to clear any assumptions. You need to look at your competitor each and every time, every day. You follow them back to back, but you don't copy your competitor verbatim. You look at them for trends, for direction. You are looking at them for mistakes. They're also looking at you when you make mistake. They know they are not going in that direction. When they make a win, they are looking at the win and trying to know why are they winning. Is it because they have some set of customers? Or is it because they are doing a new set of partnerships? How are they making that? How is that win happening? Right? And I'll give a good example. There are some features that makes money. Sorry, I'm talking about so much money because I'm working in fintech right now. There are some features that make money and they are operation heavy. And the feature is the easiest thing to implement. The feature is so simple. Sorry, my alarm for prayer. So the feature is so simple that I don't really want to mention it. Okay, let me give a good example. A good example will be integrating a payment on your platform where the company you're implementing does not have any technology backend. They don't have a technology backend. Okay, good. Now I say an example. Let's say you want people to pay for Osun waste management system on your app, and Osun state management system does not have any technology. So it means that you're not integrating any API. So the easiest thing to do is to put a button on your app and says pay for Osun waste management. And people of Osun State just go there, click it, put in their amount, submit, and you deduct the money from their wallet. That's the simplest thing to do. Simple to implement. But it's operation heavy because Osun State does not have a technology. Osun State Waste Management Company does not have a technology. So on the back end, you are spooling report as a product manager. Probably you have a product operation person or somebody somewhere inside the company who is going to do daily spooling of that record and is sending it to Osun Waste Management Company every 1 hour or every 2 hours. And is looking at the people that failed or the people that did not put correct information and they are calling them, please, can you provide your right information, your house address, so that when waste management comes, they don't tell you to pay again. And the receipts are manually generated. It's operation heavy. So somebody else sees the feature on your app and does not know what is happening behind the scene, and just goes gas, put it on their own app. That's copying your competitor verbatim. I don't know if that example makes sense, but it makes sense to me so much. And if it doesn't make sense, manage it, pamper it, put cosmetics, right? So the point is that you look at your competitor every day, you are studying them, you're looking at their wins, their losses, their moves, and all of that, but you don't copy them verbatim. You also need to analyze them. I mean, you do competitive analysis, right? To know where you position at the market and all of that. So there's a lot of advantage for looking at your competitors, but you don't copy them verbatim. I hope I answered that question. Any other question? Rabanji, are you there?
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for answering the question. Olarinwaju, does that answer your question?
Yes, fine. Thank you.
All right. Is there any other person with a question? Any other question? Please raise up your hand if you have a question. So is it that we're not taking any? So should I throw a question to you guys? Hey, at least we're supposed to have like 3 more questions. Okay, Dayo, please go on. If you have questions, please don't be shy. You raise up your hand and ask your questions. Hi, Dayo, you can go on, Dayo.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to know, is there any difference between UX for hardware and for software? Did you get my question?
Yes, I got your question, Dayo. Thank you. Basically, the way you deal with even apps, right? User experience for an app for old people is going to be different from user experience for an app for Gen Z. It's going to be way different. So it means that user experience for hardware products is going to be different from user experience for software product. Basically, but the fundamentals of UX remain the same. The fundamentals remain the same. The different phases of user journey also remains the same. There's going to be an awareness, a discovery, a selection phase, an entrust phase. The fundamentals of UX remain the same, but the detail of each of those products would be different. Yes. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you for asking that question. 'Cause I know that sometimes people always ask that if you have anything to do with hardware solutions, because most of the time we are talking about softwares and hardware solutions, do some of these things interplay in hardware solutions. By the way, a lot of us need to be considering building hardware, so because in Nigeria and everybody's just focused on software. Anyways, thank you for that question, Afolabi Dayo. Any other question before we call it a wrap? Let's take one more question. One more question before we call it a wrap. Okay, Paul, please go on.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Olawale. Thank you for the lecture. I heard you saying we are focusing building software. We were not taught how to build hardware. We want to build hardware. How are we going to build hardware?
Hi, Paul. Is that question for me or for Olawale? I was going to talk about hardware and software, though.
Anyone could answer it, please.
Okay. Let me first open the floor for Olawale first. What is Olawale's thought on hardwares and softwares?
Okay. So when I heard that question, I was just laughing. Basically, it's like I said with UX, the principle of building products are the same. Yes, your methodologies, the detailing of the methodology will be very different. I know that most hardware products are built using waterfall methods. I mean, I've had interaction with guys building hardware stuffs like Google, lenses, wristwatches, digital wristwatches, medical wear-ons and accessories, Most are not using the Scrum methodologies that we use. That is common, though it's Kanban and most of us are using that we used to call Scrum. Pun intended. So, I mean, if you are interested in building hardware, look for hardware roles. It's going to be very interesting. And come and tell us the story. But for me and my household, I think we like digital products for now.
Thank you for sharing, Olawale. So let me just quickly chip in, right? Why I said that, why I said, most times many of us are focusing on software is because, again, I noticed that many people don't look into the hardware environment. But meanwhile, companies are always hiring in hardware, right? I used to say it in my training sessions that, right, I was still showing it to people earlier today that Range Rover, Mercedes Benz, they have product managers. And I shared a video on YouTube where I was showing product managers doing user testing of a Range Rover, user testing of a Mercedes Benz. That means that they're hiring product managers there, right? So, and that means that this can extend beyond just softwares, right? So I just said that as an aside, right? So that, as all of us are all thinking about, doing what we do in product management, we're also considering other aspects beyond just softwares and digital products, right? The opportunities are out there. The same principle apply, really. I don't think that is, obviously, just like Olawale said, the development methodology will be different because you're dealing with like physical parts, hardware engineering, which has to follow step-by-step process in implementation. But in terms of the core principle of delivering a product that solves the problem, since we product managers are not the one building or doing the hardware engineering, we're going to be focused on, the requirements and ensuring that those products build something of value, right? So we can all expand our tentacles beyond softwares. But so I don't digress too much. Let's hear from Evidence before we come over to Victor. Evidence, over to you.
Hey, good evening, everyone. I have a question. So my question is, in a situation where you have a feature in an app that ensures users' security and help them protect their details, but then that feature is kind of limiting the user. It's a very important feature because it ensures security measures of user details. But then the same feature is limiting users. Why? I mean, okay, let me give an example. Let's say, for instance, there is a saving app that allows only withdrawal for emergency withdrawal for 24 hours, right? And then someone has an emergency and has to wait for a whole 24 hours to withdraw and all that. So in
How
that
do
kind
I
of
solve?
situation,
How do I people?
yes. So in that kind of situation where you have a very useful feature that protects the user, but then also limits the user somehow, what do you do?
Okay, so there's always a constant, a constant, a constant way of balancing business and whatsoever thing you are doing, business and business value and experience, right? So if that keeps the business going, you probably would want to prioritize it over not totally zero experience, right? It's just a rule that they implement, right? They want you to wait for 24 hours. And because somebody has mentioned their name, let me just say that maybe that's why the other parties are winning. And they have 6 million users and somebody has 2 million users. I don't know. But basically, if it's what makes business go on, remember that I said that maintaining status quo is priority number one. So if they can optimize business by, I don't know, I don't have anybody working at Carwise. I mean, if they have better ways of maintaining business and giving users a better experience, they would also do it, right? So maintaining status quo is very important to any business any day, and user experience needs to contribute to it, not take away from it. I don't know if that explains a little bit. Evidence.
Not really.
Okay. Can you come again with your question then? I get the
In a
example, but
situation, yes, in a situation where an app has a feature that protects the user's details for security measures, but that feature also limits the users somehow, what do you do? Do you say, okay, you're going to eradicate this feature, like it's not going to be in use again, when we know that the future is very, very important? What do we do in that situation? Because it has
security
to
is
be
not
it's a financial
negotiable.
app now. Mhm.
Okay, yeah, I get your question now. Security is not negotiable. Maybe in any other industry, but in the industry that I play in fintech, security is not negotiable. You don't negotiate it for anything whatsoever.
Mm.
Let me chip in something. Has anybody noticed that onboarding process for financial or digital banking application anywhere in Nigeria is becoming longer? Did anybody notice? I mean, omit your mic if you noticed. If you've taken a note. Olawanje, I don't know if you've noticed that over in recent time.
Yes, I
Yeah,
have
it
actually.
is.
Does anybody know why? It's because CBN wants you to do something, and DPER rules also said do this. You if it's the same across board, nobody's going to run away, because wherever you are running to the process is the onboarding also long. Do you get me? So security is non-negotiable. DPR rules policies can wipe away business in the twinkle of an eye. You mess it up, you get a $4 billion fine, just like Binance. And if you are not a big company, you suffer it. Really. So it's just like that. There's nothing you can do about it. Security first. Evidence. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So Olawale, right? Let me quickly chip in to that evidence question because I have a personal experience, right? So I use Cowrywise, and I remember when they introduced that 24-hour mark to collect our money, including emergency money. I remember sending them a message on Twitter, and I started a convo sort of with whoever it was responding with their Twitter accounts. And I was like, okay, they can lock all our other money for 24 hours. But I still think that emergency funds should not be locked for 24 hours. Since the tag for that fund is called emergency fund,
Emergency.
maybe my normal savings now can be locked for 24 hours. And I think I understand that. But the emergency fund, I don't understand. And the CTA that they put on it within the app is that they are doing fraud check, fraud detection, ML something. I sincerely don't understand. So I don't know do you think it is, I know you don't work at Cowrywise, right? But just from a financial service point of view, why do you think that is happening, especially for emergency funds? And piggyvest don't do that. So I know that it's not an industry thing, since piggyvest don't lock your emergency funds for 24 hours, right? So
Okay.
I don't know
Now I
what's your
get
thoughts.
I think that the product manager that is in charge of that product needs to sit up. That's my sincere opinion. I think the person needs to sit up. Why would you then change the name from emergency funds now? That's one. That's a terrible solution, right? I think what needs to happen is first the person needs to. I mean, we don't have all the details. All of us are just talking based on
Yeah,
the
we're just assuming. Yeah, it's just for discussion purpose, sure.
just discussion purpose. Yeah. So I would probably first talk to my stakeholders, my management, and say, what's the risk? And so probably why it's happening is that they have a trend of fraud cases. Maybe there's a trend uptake of fraud cases, and then the numbers are high. So we would sit down and have a realistic conversation and say, what's the risk appetite of this company? How much can we afford to lose? So put a benchmark there, right? And say, and start bringing it down while we are working on building an instant security check that can ensure to verify, because that process needs to be redesigned to ensure that that money is released instantly. So whatever, see, I always say that the user does not care whatever is under the hood. The product must work. I don't care. Like, as a user, that's the mindset I used to build a product. Regardless of how tedious or how complicated whatever architecture or technical jargons you have built underneath, the user does not care. So if we need to apply AI and ML and Okra identity, fraud identity check, and integrate it, somebody needs to do it. And that's going to take time. So if that is going to take a month or 3 months or 6 months, the company needs to decide, sit down and say, what's our risk appetite? How much can we afford to lose? And then now do a timeline and say, if we can afford to still lose 500K, anybody that withdraws 500K, get it instantly. Anybody that withdraws 1 million, get it in 24 hours is where they are right now. We bring it down to 12. And you know that when we are building a fraud check, we are going to build it incrementally too. The way we build product, we will not just build it once and bring that 24 hours to 0 instant. So we are going to say, when we had a little bit of our roadmap of our fraud check, we'll bring it down to 12. When we optimize it, we bring it down to 6. When we optimize it, bring it down to 4 hours. And in 3 months, that thing will go back to instant. Basically, my own view. So that's what I would say today. I don't know if it provides.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I that's my thought as well. Right. I believe that there can be ways around it where, especially for emergency funds, because that's the essence of an emergency funds. Right. I remember sending the person on Twitter a message, and the person just sent me to one long article that explained all their. But as a user, I really do not care. Especially for emergency funds. That's why it's called an emergency fund. I should be able to withdraw instantly. But yeah, thank you for sharing your thoughts around that. Thank you so much. Okay, finally, let's hear from Victor so we can wrap up for today. Victor, over to you. Hi, Victor.
Did Victor just disappear?
Oh, he just disappeared. Okay. Paul, do you still have a question? So your hand is just raised? Paul, do you still have a question?